we're fucked. 52 in the waiting room, and it's not even 7 o'clock. I mean, just think about that for a second. You probably haven't even had your first cup of coffee, the sun's barely peeking up, and the system is already completely overwhelmed. That single line right there, spoken over the super tense, pulsing heartbeat of a score, it literally plunges us straight into the visceral, high-stakes tension of Max's intense new medical drama.
Okay, let's dive into this explainer. Today, we're breaking down the official trailer for The Pit. We're going to peel back the layers of an ER in crisis. And we're not just looking at the medical emergencies, but really analyzing that incredible friction between the frontline workers, the failing hospital administration, and, the profound unspoken grief these characters are carrying around with them.
Section 1, Welcome to the Pit, the front lines of ER.
Before the real storm actually hits, we're introduced to the external chaos of the hospital and our central guy, Michael Robbie Rabitovich. And what immediately stands out to me here is the banter. Robbie greets Jack, and Jack just shoots back with, "If you jump on my shift, that's just rude, man." They basically mutually agree that neither ever wants to be the other's patient. It's this classic psychological defense mechanism, right? That dark, gallows humor medical professionals absolutely have to use to armor themselves, because they know exactly what's waiting for them the second those elevator doors open.
Moving on to Section 2, Chaos in the ER, the sensory overload.
Now, what's really interesting here is the relentless audio and visual bombardment the trailer throws at us. We're hit with this rapid-fire succession of overlapping dialogue. Forceps, reduction, med student down, someone screaming for a crash cart. Another patient's systolic blood pressure is reading just 80/14. This is not just one emergency, guys. It's like a dozen simultaneous crises, all overlapping, in this really tight, confined space. The source material is intentionally overwhelming our senses to make us feel exactly what it's like to be standing right in the middle of that room.
And right smack in the middle of this hurricane, we get this brilliant contrast in perspectives. You've got Mel, this brand new medical student, fresh off successfully helping Robbie out, and she breathlessly asks, "That was awesome. Is it always this busy?" Mel basically represents us, the outsider, getting a taste of that adrenaline rush of saving a life. But Robbie immediately grounds that naive excitement with his sobering veteran reality. No, it gets a lot busier. He knows that adrenaline fades pretty fast, but the sheer volume of the crisis, that definitely remains.
Section 3, A System in Crisis. Administration versus the front line. This brilliantly illustrates the real-world structural failures at play. On one side, we have Gloria, representing the hospital administration, giving us this classic corporate excuse, there's a nursing shortage across the country. But that gets countered immediately by a blistering frontline rebuttal. That is bullshit. If you paid them a living wage, they'd line up to work here. See, the source material doesn't just want to show us cool medical procedures. It is directly addressing the institutional friction and that massive divide between the people balancing the budgets and the people actually stopping the bleeding. And Gloria's response to these desperate, practical demands from her overworked staff, it is completely devoid of empathy. She says, other hospitals are managing this crisis. Either step up or step aside. Talk about a harsh ultimatum. This establishes a truly terrifying reality for Robbie and his team. Not only are they fighting a war against death down in the ER, but their own institution isn't coming to save them. They are literally out there on their own.
Which brings us to Section 4, The Ghosts We Carry, the internal core of grief.
So now we're peeling back the final, most intimate layer. Amidst all the sirens and the screaming, there's this quiet little moment that shifts the entire tone of the trailer. Someone says, "Robbie is working the shift, by the way. Cut him a little slack today." That one offhand comment to a coworker immediately tips us off that there is a deeper, unspoken trauma haunting this specific shift. Robbie isn't just dealing with the 52 people in the waiting room, He's carrying this massive, invisible weight around with him.
And this subtle trauma connects to a much deeper timeline of unresolved grief. 5 years ago today, Dr. Adamson died. Today is the anniversary. When Heather directly confronts Robbie asking, "Are you okay?" he immediately deflects with, "Why wouldn't I be?" It shows us a man who has clearly decided that the absolute only way to move forward and survive this brutal environment is by completely walling off his own humanity.
Heather tries to break through to him, though. She tells him, "You can't block your feelings forever." And Robbie's response? Oh, you'd be surprised. It is such a chilling moment. It really showcases the extreme emotional detachment required to survive in an environment where people are literally dying right in front of you. Because if Robbie actually stops to feel the weight of Dr. Adamson's death, or the death of any patient on his table for that matter, he might just shatter completely.
Section 5. The illusion of balance. Coping with trauma.
So, the really crucial point here is how the source material transitions us. We go from this frantic Tier 1 trauma sequence, medics yelling for epinephrine, doing frantic chest compressions, straight to the sudden, piercing sound of a heart monitor flatlining. And then, just cold finality. Are we ready to call this? The noise stops, the fight's over, they lost. And you have to wonder, how does a person mentally process that kind of failure and simply move on to the next bed?
Well, Robbie does it through stark, almost brutal rationalization. He states that 150,000 people die every single day in the world. He looks right at his team and says, "Today, you got one of them, and we're going to get more of them before the shift is over." He's using this massive, impersonal global statistic basically as a mathematical shield. He's trying to shrink the tragedy of the single human life they just lost in that room by placing it into this grand, totally unavoidable context. He tries to frame this emotional numbness, this intense detachment, as a professional necessity. Over a montage of continuing chaos, he says, "You learn to accept it. Find balance." He's trying to convince his team, and honestly, he's desperately trying to convince himself, that this giant wall he's built around his heart is simply what balance looks like in the pit.
But the trailer doesn't let him off the hook, and it definitely doesn't let us off the hook either. A voice asks him, "You found balance?" And right as we hear these blood-curdling screams and the return of those blaring sirens, Robbie delivers his final, incredibly haunting admission. No, not even close. It leaves us with such a powerful, provocative question to think about. Are we truly capable of finding balance in the face of relentless, institutionalized tragedy, or are we just lying to ourselves so we can survive the next shift? It is a fascinating look at the human psyche under pressure, leaving us all to wonder just how long that illusion of balance can truly last.